It was early September, and in the heart of their suburban home, Sarah and Jason sat at their kitchen table, bathed in the soft glow of the late afternoon sun. The air was thick with the scent of fresh coffee, and the table between them was cluttered with a mix of papers, household items, and a few remnants of lunch. Despite the comfort of their home, there was an underlying tension, a quiet hum that Sarah couldn't ignore. "Jason, have you thought about how you want to celebrate your birthday this year?" Sarah asked, looking up from a stack of papers. She had already begun planning, her mind racing with the details of what the evening could be. Jason, always the laid-back one, leaned back in his chair, sipping his coffee with an air of nonchalance. "It's just another day. I don't need anything special. We'll keep it simple, celebrate at home, maybe invite some people over. The Wagners and the Millers, of course, and my brother Mike and David. Maybe even Julia if she's in town." Sarah nodded, half satisfied, half concerned. "Sounds good. Let's keep it low-key. Ask Mike to bring Dylan. Our Ethan could use someone to play with for a couple of days." She paused, the flicker of a thought passing through her mind. "And Julia? She'll be coming too?" Jason's expression shifted just slightly, but it didn't escape Sarah's notice. "I suppose. It'd be awkward if we didn't. She's my sister. Besides, you know how she gets. She'd expect it." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she set her papers aside. "I get that. But you know how it is with Julia, right? The way she and David act when they come over, like the whole world revolves around them. You know I'm right." Jason let out a deep breath. "I know, Sarah. I've always known. Julia's different, but she's family. We don't have to get too involved. It's just a couple of hours." Sarah's lips tightened in frustration. "It's not just a couple of hours. It's always the same with them. Julia talking endlessly about her career, about how successful David is, as if that's the only thing that matters. And David just sits there, letting her take center stage, feeding off her attention." Jason smiled softly, trying to defuse the situation. "Let her have her moment. She's worked hard for it. You know how she is." Sarah leaned in, her voice more pointed. "I'm not asking you to stop supporting her, Jason. But it's like she never cares about us, about our lives. How many times has she dumped her kids on us when we were trying to get things done? And how many times have we bent over backward to help her out with things, without ever getting anything in return?" Jason winced. "You know how our parents raised us, Sarah. Family helps family. We're just doing what they taught us." Sarah's eyes softened, but the frustration still lingered. "I get that. But I just don't understand why it always feels like we're the ones doing the heavy lifting. You've helped Julia with everything. She's never once offered to help us." Jason's expression softened, but there was a flicker of guilt behind his eyes. "I know. It's complicated." Sarah sighed, her voice tinged with weariness. "I just wish you'd see it, Jason. I wish you could see how one-sided this is." The days leading up to Jason's birthday were filled with the usual hustle and bustle. Sarah worked late, Jason busied himself with small home repairs, and both of them struggled to keep up with the demands of family life. Yet, in the back of their minds, both were waiting for something that would inevitably come. An invitation to Julia's housewarming. When it finally arrived, it felt like a punch to the gut. "Sarah, I just got off the phone with Julia," Jason said that evening, his voice slightly strained. "They're having the housewarming in 2 weeks, and we're not invited." Sarah froze, her hands stilling as she folded a shirt. "What do you mean, not invited?" Jason's face hardened. "She said that they're inviting some important people, David's colleagues, and that the atmosphere won't be appropriate for us. We'd look out of place." Sarah blinked, processing the words, her heart sinking. "She said that?" Jason nodded, his jaw tightening. "Yeah, she said it was nothing personal, just that the guest list is a little different." Sarah felt a flash of anger stir within her, but she swallowed it down. "Of course. It's never personal. It's always about her and David, isn't it? They've worked so hard to build this perfect life. and anyone who doesn't fit into their shiny new world is just too much. Jason hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. Look, I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, Julia's always been a bit like that, but… No, Jason, Sarah interrupted, her voice sharp. It is a big deal. She's making it clear that we're not part of her world, and you're just going to let her do that. Jason opened his mouth, then closed it, knowing there was no easy answer. What do you want me to do, Sarah? You know how she is. If I call her out on it, she'll just retreat into her bubble. Sarah shook her head, a bitter smile on her lips. I know, but it doesn't make it right. She treats us like we're beneath her, and you just keep letting her do it. The next week, things between them grew tense. Sarah's unease over Julia's behavior festered in her heart. And Jason, though he understood his wife's frustration, found himself caught between his loyalty to his sister and his wife's need for support. Then, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, after Sarah had returned from running errands, she found Jason sitting alone at the kitchen table, his phone in his hand, staring at it as if it were the source of all his confusion. Jason? Sarah asked, her voice soft but heavy with concern. He looked up, his expression unreadable. I just spoke with Julia again. She called to apologize for the whole housewarming thing. Sarah's eyebrows lifted. Apologize? Jason nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. She said it was a misunderstanding. She didn't mean to make us feel unwanted, but she said that David's colleagues are sensitive about who they associate with, and that if we came, it would make things difficult. Sarah clenched her fists, the old wound reopening. Difficult? Difficult? This is insane, Jason. Jason stood up slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah, I know, but there's something off about all this. Julia's been acting differently lately, almost like she's keeping us at arm's length on purpose. And I don't think it's just about the housewarming. Sarah froze, a chill creeping down her spine. What do you mean? What's going on with her? Jason's eyes darkened. I don't know, but there's something she's not telling us, and it's starting to feel like she's hiding something from all of us. That evening, as the sun set and the house grew quieter, Jason and Sarah sat in the living room, the weight of their conversation hanging in the air. Jason had made up his mind. Sarah, he began, his voice firm, I'm going to talk to Julia. I'm going to confront her about all this. I don't care what she thinks or what kind of people she's trying to impress. It's time we figured out what's really going on. Sarah looked at him, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Jason, are you sure? This could blow up in your face. She's not going to like it. Jason nodded slowly. I know, but it's time to stop playing her game. We've been doing it for too long. I need to know why she's pushing us away, and I won't let her drag you or Ethan into this anymore. Sarah reached out and took his hand, her fingers tight around his. I'm with you, Jason. Whatever happens, we're in this together. And for the first time in a long while, Jason felt the certainty he'd been lacking. Julia's perfect life, the one she tried so hard to build, was about to collide with the truth. And no matter the cost, he was going to make sure Sarah and their son would no longer be sidelined in her world.